I have these friends, Dan and Sheila. They're podcast hosts.
Welcome to Profiling Criminal Minds. I'm Dan.
And I'm Sheila in this case.
And we're back for season 2 of Shooter, which is what I call the season where you find out why we were watching Shooter.
Shooter, yeah, because I still didn't know at the end of season 1.
No.
And then I started to watch season 2 and I went,
oh, okay.
Is that Josh Stewart? Okay, now I see
Josh
why we're
Stewart.
watching this.
I was not kidding about this.
Watch season 3.
I was not kidding about this, essentially fundamentally being a Josh Stewart podcast. I mean, there's not enough Josh Stewart content to make a big deal about the fact that it's a Josh Stewart podcast. But, subtly, quietly, this is very much a Josh Stewart podcast. So look forward to us covering Manhunt later this year. I found out he was in the show Manhunt about the search for the conspiracy that killed Lincoln. Apparently he's in that too. So, there you go.
There you go. We got that. That's where we're moving now because there aren't that many profiling things. I thought we were going to do.
Oh, no, we're going to do profiling shows, obviously.
Yes.
And those are the ones we cover episode by episode. When Josh Stewart makes the show, we just watch the show and then talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, unless they do a show where Josh Stewart's the main character, in which case we will talk about it episode by episode. We're not crazy. Although what I'll say about season 2 of Shooter is Josh Stewart the main character?
Probably. I'm looking at this and going, now he's not in enough of it to do it episode by episode.
No, he's not.
He hasn't got big enough, but basically he's the key.
He's the one driving all of the action.
Yeah, all of the action because he's Solotov.
Yeah, turns out he was Solotov the whole time.
Yeah,
yeah, he's the one driving the action. He's the one that we're here to watch. All of the other characters spend a lot of their time. I mean, they do their little investigation stuff. Mostly they're just sitting around waiting for Solotov to do something.
Solotov to make a phone call. Solotov to kill somebody. Solotov to... Yes.
Oh my God.
We have no idea still why there's an FBI agent in here.
Oh my
to pad out the content.
What is she like? Seriously, like her and that reporter. Every time it cuts back to them, I'm like, what are they doing?
Yes, this was not.
Why are you wasting my time with this nonsense?
Yeah, well, we got 3 episodes. Well, because I guess it seemed like a good idea at the time.
No, honestly.
It was a bizarre 8 episodes.
It's a weirdly paced season. I will agree with you on that.
Jeez.
Yeah, it really is. So it starts with him going to Germany to give the corpsman from his old special forces unit an award, right?
Yes.
So this guy's getting an award, and so he wants Bob Lee to be the one to give it, make a little speech, and the whole unit is there. And it really throws into sharp relief how implausible the first season is. Because wait a minute, if Bob Lee is this beloved hero who has a bunch of special forces teammates who are also well thought of people in the community, why did you think you were going to get away with framing him for trying to shoot the president?
Well, yes, but in the first season, remember, everybody got killed except him.
Yeah, well, apparently not. Apparently,
in
most
the
of
ambush. So he got a new corps?
Yeah, apparently.
And a new Danny? I don't know.
No, Donnie. Yeah.
Donnie?
It is kind of weird. There's this, Donnie does actually, it's a big part of what is driving the season. We find out that Donnie was the target when Donnie got shot, and Solotov doesn't miss.
Yeah.
So no, it's quite the opposite of the, president of Ukraine situation, although it is a parallel to it. He assumed it was a sniper duel, but really, Solotov never misses. I said opposite. It's exactly, correlated with it.
Yeah.
Yes, Solotov, Donnie was the target because he had seen, Solotov. Now, that said, I don't know why they care.
Well, I don't know why Solotov cares that people know what he looks like.
But I mean, they
except
don't
he's
know
an
what he looks
assassin.
But
No, they don't really.
They don't really know what he looks like. He had a fake mustache. He was wearing a hat. And no one's looking for that random UN agent who stabbed that woman in the neck. Right?
Yeah.
Like, no one is looking for him.
It's 6 years later and nobody's been looking for him. And all of a sudden he's decided that he's got to kill everybody who's ever seen him.
No, he isn't. When we meet him, he's just kind of hanging out in Spain, you know, living his best life, watching football on the TV, right? And Harry Hamlin, right? You know, cooking his dinner. And Harry Hamlin sends some dudes to kill him.
Yes.
And they say the reason we're sending dudes to kill you, is that there are people out there who know what you look like. And he's like, and so Solotov was out. He didn't care about any of this.
Nope.
It's only that it's not him.
And they dragged him back in.
He's like not the one who wants to keep his identity secret. Atlas is the one who's demanding his identity be kept secret. And then it turns out they don't even really care so much about his identity being kept secret as killing all the people who know about their heroin dealing.
Yes.
That's
what it's really about, but they don't. But that's not what Bob Lee thinks.
No.
He thinks it's that Bob Lee has bought the Atlas position.
Yes. That like Solotov is just wanting to, that it's all just him cleaning up to the cleaning up so that no one will know who he is and he can go away. And to be fair, Solotov does say, he has his nice line that he's not tying up loose ends, he's burning the rope. Which is a cute line. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. No, Josh Stewart does reasonably well.
I think he does more than reasonably well. I think he's the reason to watch this season of television.
Well, yes. The only reason, because there's nobody else that's going to grab your interest. I mean, Bob Lee is turning out to be a real jerk where his wife is concerned.
Can I just ask you, suddenly it became Criminal Minds and no one wants to get therapy. What has happened? She was kidnapped by, the CIA, and her daughter was kidnapped by a Russian goon, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I'm fine. Are you fine though? Would anyone be fine in that situation?
We're fine.
Oh God. I know, because swaggers don't complain. Yeah, no, though.
No. And then her husband takes her off to Germany, which is fine.
Yeah, and then they all get shot at and almost blown up.
Yeah. And now she's definitely got PTSD and cannot cope and decides the only way to handle this is like her husband and go to the shooting range.
Oh my God.
That's going. And of course he sees none of this.
No, of course not, because he's
except
busy
the maid
with
does, the housekeeper.
The housekeeper,
the babysitter knows that she's
barely hanging on.
Yeah.
Right, but it's not like she tells Bob Lee about that in any meaningful way.
Well, because Bob Lee wouldn't listen to her. She's a woman. He's a Texan, as we found out.
I know.
He's from Texas.
So, which means fundamentally, you don't have to listen to women. If there's one thing I know about Texans.
Key up. I love it.
I know, right?
God.
Oh my God. So we're introduced to Solotov, right? Seducing, essentially doing a thing from the Jackal. Seducing a lady so he can get into her apartment because that's overlooking. It's got a good sight line at the hotel where the dinner is going to be, and so he can send in his assassins to kill these guys, and then he'll be the backstop with a sniper rifle.
Yeah.
And then she comes home and he murders her, and he's like, oh well. And that causes him to miss Bob Lee, who, the weird part is, right? And so it's just luck, but Bob Lee, corpseman friend, gets killed, unfortunately. And then, of course, he spends time cleaning things up, pretending to be a German cop who maybe he killed. It's never really established. We hear the guy died, but we didn't hear that he was murdered. So who the hell knows? Yeah. And that's when we find out that Josh Stewart doesn't have a German accent.
Well, he tried.
He tried, but honestly, with the way TV is made, who the hell knows how long Josh Stewart, like before they started shooting the show, Josh Stewart found out he had the job. You know?
Well, here's what I say though. It's not bad for an American who, most people who are watching this thing wouldn't notice it. It's just, I mean, when we
know a lot of German people
who have accents or who have had accents since they've passed over.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and when
you notice it right away.
Oh God, and I at the school, I've had them at the school, you know, and yes, okay, so it's not great, but I didn't think it was as bad as you thought it was.
I think it's a very bad Russian accent. That said,
you mean German accent?
German accent. Sorry, no, he's got a great Russian accent.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's a big part of why he got the job. And that's why I'm like, how long did before he had to show up? Did he know he had this job? Because he's the kind of guy who you can hire if like you need a guy who's got a Russian accent ready to go.
Well, and the thing is I don't know why he has the Russian accent ready to go, because he is, from the Appalachians.
Yeah, but he's played Russians a bunch. I mean, that's
yeah. And not only that, but he also could do the New Orleans accent.
Oh, yeah.
And then we find out he can do the Texan accent.
I know. Oh, the Texan accent scene is very fun when you've got him.
When he's learning how to be a Texan.
Yeah. Although I will say, I told you how they were going to try and redeem Omar Epps, right?
Yes.
Which is that it's going to turn out that he was working for her the whole time, trying to defeat the rogue elements inside the CIA, and that's exactly what they do. Like that's 100. But the thing is, that doesn't redeem Omar Epps to me.
No, and it doesn't. Well, it does seem to for Bob.
Apparently, Bob Lee's fine with it suddenly. Oh, well, I'm tortured about the way I murdered Donnie's mother.
Donnie's mother, yes. But you know what they would have done to her if I hadn't done it?
Would they have brutally tortured this 78-year-old woman? I don't know that they would have brutally tortured this 78-year-old woman.
No.
Like, I know Tom Sizemore's character was a bad dude, but I never saw him torturing people for the fun of torturing people.
No.
Like, I don't know that they would have. I feel like you could have just gotten her on a bus to Alberta, right? And just, give her a couple of grand to sit in a hotel, told Tom Sizemore she was dead, and then, when this all shakes out, this all shakes out. You know, because if Bob Lee's in jail or dead, no one's going to care what Donnie's mom has to say. And if Tom Sizemore's dead, nobody, it doesn't matter. Like 3 days later, Tom Sizemore was dead. So you did that for no reason. And you could have seen that you were doing it for no reason. And what I would argue is by the end of the season, like, I feel like we're more likely to be on the side of Solotov than we are the side of Omar Epps' character.
Or anybody.
Or even probably Bob Lee.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, and I know this is crazy that the show does this, but it genuinely, tell me if I'm reading into this, because if I'm reading into this, you can absolutely call me on it. Solotov seems genuinely more worried about what's going on with Bob Lee's wife than Bob Lee does.
I agree.
Okay, good. I thought I was worried that I was reading into it.
In fact, it strikes it. I'm beginning to wonder that, because Bob Lee's afraid that he's going to kill his family.
Yeah.
But he doesn't seem to.
He has no interest in killing.
Well, he has the family. No, he's having second thoughts because he's watching her.
Yeah.
Right? And I have to admit that her shooting that guy in the ear was very satisfying.
Yeah. 100% something you shouldn't do.
No, of course not. But he was such an asshole.
Oh, that guy's terrible. I'm happy he got shot in the ear. And honestly, when we hear when we see Solotov reacting to her confrontation with him at the trailer park, I'm like, is Solotov going to go and kill that guy? Because I really feel
Well, I
like,
was wondering about that.
because it really
I'm
looked like he
still-
was going to go and kill that guy.
Yeah, I mean, that was what I expected.
But
that guy would suddenly show up dead, and then they would wonder if
Bob Lee had done it.
if Bob Lee had done it, or if she had done it because she got
Well,
so.
no, he would have killed him with a sniper rifle.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so everyone would have thought Bob Lee had done it. And honestly, maybe that'll, maybe next season a complication is going to be that on the way over to the church, Solotov shot that guy with a sniper rifle. And now it's going to be complicating things for Bob Lee because the guy who was harassing his wife got shot with a sniper rifle and he's a famous sniper.
Yeah.
I mean, that still could happen, but it's like you're watching this and I'm like, I feel like he's more concerned about Bob Lee's wife than Bob Lee is.
Yep.
And that's kind of weird, right?
Yep.
But yeah.
No, Bob Lee is. Oh, so you've got PTSD. Well, I guess we'll talk about that when this is all over.
Like, no, Bob.
No, do you not understand? No, because soldiers don't get PTSD. You can just see the whole thing.
Oh, I know.
It's just like, no, Bob Lee, you're a first-class sociopath.
Yeah.
You are in love with being a sniper and shooting things.
Yep.
We've already seen that last season.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen you get the warning and it didn't sink in.
Yeah, but because, by the way, that's why there are such incredibly high rates of special forces people doing intimate partner abuse. Because soldiers can deal with PTSD. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, by the way, it's so endemic, right? Special forces guys beating their wives that the TV show, what was the TV show that, my brain is, that, remember Dennis Haysbert was in it? The Unit.
No.
The Unit. Right?
I never saw it.
Oh, okay. Well, it's not a good show. But the point is The Unit, which was literally David Mamet's, so he had made the movie Spartan, which is a really good movie, right? And he had fallen in love with Delta Force when he was making the movie Spartan. So David Mamet, of all people, pitched a TV show about Delta Force that is literally just like a hagiography of Special Forces operators. And it's just about how awesome it is that they're out there murdering people for democracy. Right? Imagine SEAL Team, but way more, preachy in about how these guys are always in the right.
No. You know what that reminds me of?
Yeah.
Is the one with the bikers.
Oh, yeah, yes, Sons of Anarchy.
Sons of Anarchy, where the guy who created it fell in love with bikers.
Yeah, it's the exact same kind of thing, right?
It's a hagiography
of these bikers, which
is
so absurd when you watch the show. But I mean, we're not here to talk about. We could talk forever about Sons of Anarchy.
Although
anyway.
I did love the song.
Oh, it's a great song.
The John Redeemer, right?
Yeah. John the Revelator.
John the Revelator, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that use of John the Revelator is magnificent.
And then the Hamlet ending.
I know. Oh my God, man.
I'm in love with my mother.
Oh God. I know. And he has to kill his mother, and then he has to kill himself. But anyway.
You can tell how much Shooter, other than John Stewart, is impressing us.
Josh Stewart. But the point I was getting at is, so when you watch that show, right, what I'm saying is, it's such a problem that even a show that was built as a hagiography of these guys and how these guys are the most important, right, even it had to address the issue of these guys beating their wives. And it was entirely a show about how great they are. So yeah, it's a problem. PTSD with Special Forces guys is a huge problem.
Well, yes, because they are in constant conflict with the way they were raised.
Exactly.
And you have to be able to judge, because a lot of them are conservative. They've been raised Christians. So, in one way or another, and they just get the conflict. They have to overcome that and say that the state is basically higher than God.
Yep.
Or right. The state is
if
always
you want to start
right.
killing people, yeah.
If you're killing people for the state, the state has to be the highest authority.
Mhm.
And that is not
It's not
outside
an
of-
easy thing for them to do
no. And,
psychologically.
And I mean, Reacher deals with the sniper in a much better way.
Oh yeah, but that's Reacher, we really enjoyed you.
Yes, I want another season.
We're getting another season. They've
I know.
already shot the next season. Like
I
it's
know.
done. No, we're getting another
we're
season at the
waiting.
end of this year.
We're
It's
just
very-
waiting.
We're patiently waiting for the next season of Reacher. No, but when you watch this season, so if I can précis the plot of this season. So he has been told by Atlas, and by the way, suddenly the I just love how, and this is something we're going to talk about when we invariably discuss the movie Shooter, right? Suddenly the villain here is not like the security state or the US government. Suddenly the villain is Atlas, an essentially Spectre, like a giant evil organization.
Or Scorpia in Tex Rider.
Or Scorpia, yes, in Alex Rider,
Alex
right?
Rider,
Where
yeah.
it's like a nefarious group within various governments who has strange ends and has agents everywhere.
Yep.
And Harry Hamlin, who's a U.S. senator,
Yep.
we find out, is actively like...
He's the leader.
Well, no, he's a leader of
Okay,
Atlas. We don't
leader,
know that
yes.
he's in charge of Atlas. I mean, I'm sure
He's
there's a
in charge of
Blofeld
the
out
American
there.
branch
Yes,
of
exactly.
Atlas.
Right?
Okay.
And so they're the real villains. They're the ones who were running heroin and that Tom Sizemore was working for, right? And that Omar Epps was sent in to deal with. Yeah. And Omar Epps gets his wife killed. And I'm going to say gets his wife killed. Here, we're on the run from these murderers
and he's
who want to kill
leaving her
me.
in the car.
And it's like, wait in the car for me. I'm like, wait in the car? What is wrong with you? You're on the run from murderers. There's no reason not to stick together.
And they're following you.
Exactly. There is no conceivable reason not to stick together.
You've already
really
shot
bothered me.
a couple of them.
Yeah.
You
You
yes.
not just shot a couple of them, they were firing automatic weapons at you in the middle of a market. These are dangerous people who don't care about collateral damage. So yeah, stick together. So it just really, that scene really bothered me.
That opening scene with him and his wife was just such a problem. I agree with you wholly.
Yeah, it was difficult, but it's like, well, we need to get rid of this character because we can't afford another character in the show. Okay. And like, oh, we want you to be sympathetic with Omar Epps. I'm still not.
No, that doesn't.
Still not.
That doesn't exonerate him.
Still a dude who betrayed his best friend for reasons
that we still don't understand.
Well, I mean, I guess Atlas wanted him to be the target because that way they would, I think the logic is that way they would, just, because if he had been killed by Jason Gedrick, then that closes the loop on one other person who knows about their heroin, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is, like, it's still a dangerous dude to use, because what if he had told someone about all the heroin? And then he mysteriously becomes this guy who took a shot at the president. If he had told people about this heroin situation, that might come out.
Yep.
Yeah, like a lot of what Atlas is doing, like they're trying to backfill how little sense the first season made. And I'm not going to say they're doing a great job, because I don't think they are.
Well, no, I don't know. It's a USA show.
It's a USA original, and these guys are not known for the best storytelling.
Other than Burn Notice.
Don't get me wrong. We all love Burn Notice. You're not going to hear us complaining about Burn Notice. We all like, Suits and White Collar, okay? These are all solid shows, but they're not known for being, like, the tightest shows. Have you watched White Collar?
No.
It's a lot of fun, but every season they have like this elaborate, scheme going on, an elaborate villain that they have to deal with, and they're like, it never makes sense.
Yeah, well, that's like this show.
And it's a lot like this show.
Yeah, this is about a sniper, but it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, but
if you're trying to
create
coherence.
Oh, but I mean, it's weird because like Josh Stewart gets so many great things. So he's there to murder them, and one of the guys ends up in the hospital. So Josh Stewart gets in as the ambulance driver to whisk him away and murders him in the back of the ambulance. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty clever. And then he finds out, he goes to see the guys who he hired, the guy who managed hiring the mercenaries, right, to fake an Islamic attack on these Marines, right? And you get a legitimately great moment where he's like, we got to wrap this thing up. And the villain is like, should I be afraid? And Josh Stewart is like, yeah. And then we cut away. And when we cut back, Josh Stewart has murdered everyone in the crime office. And left them all there for Bob Lee to find and a bomb to blow up whoever found them. I'm like, see, this is how you establish a villain that we're really going to enjoy.
Yeah, but yes, and which makes the sympathy part of it. Like, here's the thing. Yes, he's the key character you enjoy watching on the scene because he's so good. It's going to be interesting to see where it actually develops between him and Bob Lee's wife.
Yeah.
And whether he's going to ultimately let her go and the child in the end, and
I can't imagine he wouldn't.
But as you say, he seems to be more sympathetic. Now, of course, we're supposed to understand that that the only reason he's befriending the wife.
Yeah, is to get an opportunity to kill Bob Lee.
Yes. Now, that's what we're supposed to understand. But he does seem to be, ingratiating, but something seems to be affecting him. He's good at giving us that sort of idea that this is
more meaningful to the character.
Yes, and he's sort of, yes, and we will know this if he kills the guy with the ear problem.
Well, the ear. I like how you described the ear problem. She shot a gun next to his ear.
Yes, so he's now got.
He can only hear in one side. But yeah, what I found funny was, right, so what we were told in the first season is that Solotov, murders all of these civilians, and he's a horrible monster with hundreds of kills to his name. And this season we find out that it's like half of that is Russian propaganda, and half of that is him being forced to work for Atlas. Because in the final episode of the season, we're like, you honestly get this sequence where you're like, wait a minute, like, do you want this show to be about him now? Because I'm not against that. I'm fine if you want to make a show about him now, but it's such a weird turn for the show to take when we see that it's like he's in essentially a bunker, desperately protecting his men, like his soldiers who are praying, and he just keeps murdering these Russians who are trying to essentially, well, what happened in Chechnya. Right? He is fighting a valiant, failing battle against these Russian soldiers who are trying to wipe out basically the remnants of his unit. And we find out previously that the Russians had killed his entire family.
Yep.
And so the Russians do what Russians do. They just pump in a bunch of sarin gas.
Yep.
But miraculously, some Atlas guys are there to give him...
to save him.
To save his life with however you stop sarin gas, Like, I honestly don't know. I'm giving you a bunch of adrenaline to your... I don't know how you deal with sarin gas. I am far from an expert in this kind of thing. But some Atlas guys are there to save him. And essentially, the job is you work for them or they kill you. And if you do a good job, at some point, we may be able to get back at the way Russia has treated your country. So it's like, so this whole time, was Solotov really the villain here? Because he was just doing what Bob Lee does, except he was doing it for Atlas instead of for the U.S. government.
Well, he was originally doing it for his people.
Yeah, to save his country from Russia. And ever since then, he's just been following the orders of these villains. He's literally just a weapon they point at people.
Yep.
Yeah, like it's... and
which is what they do as you say, with Bob, except
Exactly
Bob
what they
Lee's
do
doing
with
it
Bob.
for America.
So it's fine. Except America, like, has this, like, American senators and American CIA agents, the American government, are trafficking heroin
Via Atlas.
via Atlas. Like, so I don't know that I'm supposed to think that it's like, was Bob Lee on the good side of this? You know, the only person here who is actively fighting to protect, like, concretely, tell me what Bob Lee was doing in Afghanistan that protected America. I can't tell you anything Bob Lee was doing in Afghanistan that protected America. I can tell you what Solotov was doing in Chechnya to protect Chechnya. You know?
Yeah, I know. It is bad. And then we need to discuss, yes. So then we need to discuss, what is the FBI agent? And my line was, you asked me that, what is she doing there? And you could do this whole thing without her and the reporter. We've talked about this, but my line was, well, you had to have somebody who's a true believer.
Yeah.
You still, in
To
the
be
system.
disillusioned by what she finds out about Atlas.
Well, she's still not disillusioned at the end of the second season.
Which is crazy. How are you not disillusioned yet, lady?
Do you not understand, And the reporter is trying to tell her. And the guy that was killed, who was in one of Bob Lee's friends,
Bob Lee's friends, who is the conspiracy guy who everyone thought had killed himself.
Yes, right? And then it turns out he was alive.
Yeah.
But and he was going there all, oh, no, you just come in with us, the FBI, and we'll be fine. I'll put you into a safe place. No. Mm-hmm. And of course he's dead.
Yeah. Right away.
Yep. Doesn't take Solotov long to find him and kill him.
I know, right?
That's it.
Oh my God. Like he gets killed right away. But, and this is the part that gets really crazy. And this is why I keep talking about how strangely the show is structured, right? Yeah. Because I do think it is genuinely strangely structured. Because, okay, how is this stuff framed is my point. Okay? And again, I know that bear with me for a second.
Yeah, let's get the framing.
How is this stuff framed? Because when I am watching a TV show, like, if you talk about the hero's journey, the hero is supposed to come after obstacle, and things get worse and worse and worse for him, and he have to, like, barely get through by the skin of his teeth. And my statement is, I don't know that was Bob Lee's journey in the first season, where he was framed for murder, right?
Yeah.
Where he was framed for murder and had to go to jail and had to fake his death and had to, like, keep running and running and running. Like, Bob Lee keeps going home. If Solotov wanted to kill him, he could do it at any point.
Yeah.
Like, he knows where Bob Lee lives. He could just hang out on those hills, and when Bob Lee is driving home one time, he could kill him. It would not be a problem. By comparison, Solotov is the one who his life is constantly threatened. He's constantly on the run. And so there's this point that kind of blew my mind, because I couldn't believe the show was doing this. So, he has laid a trap for Bob Lee, because he knows Bob Lee is coming to kill him. He knows that, like, that it's obvious that Bob Lee is going to find out that he's working with the cartel, and the cartel are going to give up his safe house. Like, he just knows that's going to happen. So he's left a bomb, and he's going to ambush Bob Lee and Omar Epps, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is his plan. And it's honestly a pretty good plan. No one's saying that's a bad plan. Isaac is Omar Epps' name. I keep forgetting the character's name. Isaac. Right? And so he does the thing, and Bob Lee figures out that there's a pressure cooker, and you were supposed to think that he sent the pressure cooker to blow up Bob Lee's family, but that's not Solotov's thing. Like, he's not going after people's families, apparently. Atlas does that all the time, but apparently Solotov, that's not his priority. And so they have this fight scene, and in the fight scene, like, Bob Lee shatters Solotov's wrist to the point where we see a gruesome, like, bone sticking out. And then, so he has to go and he has to set it himself and do a cast himself. And then for the rest of the season, he's doing all of the stuff he has to do for the second half of the season with his good hand broken, like working just with his left hand, going to Mexico and fighting mercenaries and assassinating Bob Lee's friend and fighting. And there's a scene where seriously, like, Bob and Isaac are there with assault rifles and fully armored, and Solotov is just there with a broken arm and a pistol, and he's fighting them off, and I'm like, wait, whose side am I supposed to be on in this situation? Because, like, am I projecting because we love Josh Stewart so much, or, like, is he being coded as the underdog here?
Well, I don't know. Or he's being coded as such a good assassin that even when he's so handicapped, he will still succeed at, he's still a major threat. Yes, I know.
The way these things are coded, that's what the hero does. That's not what the villain does.
Yes, I know.
Because he's not coded as a guy who's getting more threatening and violent as he's getting damaged. He's being, coded as a guy who's just like having to work harder. And that's what heroes do. They get obstacles and they have to work harder.
Yes, and Bob and Bob Lee does find out that there's this stand thing that the guy can put his arm on.
Yeah.
And allows him to use his hand.
Yeah.
So he can shoot with it. Not that there's a call for it very often.
No. And that's how he finds out about his wife chatting with a guy with a broken arm. Yeah. And he realizes Solotov had been talking to his wife. And that's what sets up the finale. But it's like, before that, like in the first episode, right? We see him murder a lady, right? In the first season, we see him murder a lady because he had to use her apartment. And then he murders Bob Lee's friend in the hospital. But, like, for the rest of the show, like, I don't know that Solotov is doing anything more objectionable than Bob Lee is doing.
Well, that's the point. The point is that did what he did in the first episode, because it happened in Germany after all, not in the US.
Yeah.
Is that enough to make us
dislike him for the rest of the season?
Villain.
Yes. I don't know that it is.
Yes, and is that a question of Josh Stewart being, that's what you're asking, being such a sympathetic character that he can actually create sympathy for this supposed villain, even while the show wants it to be a villain? We'll find out in season 3.
We will, because when I'm watching this show, like, they didn't have to open season 3 with Solotov being retired and Atlas forcing him to go after Bob Lee's people.
They didn't start season 2 with that.
Sorry, no, episode 3.
Oh, episode 3.
I said season 3. I meant episode 3. They didn't have to start episode 3 with Solotov being almost murdered by a bunch of Atlas goons and being forced by Atlas, right, to do what he did in episode 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Like, we find out in season 3 that he was not calling the shots in any way, shape, or form for anything he's done so far.
Yes, that's what we discover. So,
and they didn't have to do that. No. And so it's like, there is this strange project the whole season of being very sympathetic to what Solotov is going through. Okay. And Bob Lee comes across as such a jerk to his wife.
So are Bob Lee and Solotov going to become best friends by the end of season 3? This is the question.
If this is a smart show, that is where this is going. Because, okay, what I'll say about this season is, it is 100%, like, it could not be clearer, right? That this does not feel like the intended end of the season.
No.
In any way, shape, or form. It feels like they were told when they started shooting the season that they had 10 episodes to tell their story. And that some way in the middle of the season, they got told, maybe towards the end of shooting, they got told, actually, you only have 8 episodes. Because this episode, like, it ends so abruptly. And I know that this was 2017, so this isn't the story, but it's like watching, remember how The Blacklist was like, oh, we have to shut down because of COVID. What the hell? This is how it feels.
Yeah, it is. And it was, yes. And 2017 didn't get affected by COVID.
No, it's 2 years before COVID. Well, 2.5 years before the COVID filming stops. Yeah. So it's like, so he goes to, oh God, what do they call the Catholic ceremony? Confirmation?
No, yes, her first communion.
First communion. Is that confirmation?
Well, they don't call it that. They call
Okay.
it first communion.
Okay. But it is what I'm thinking of as confirmation, right?
Yeah, but it happens when they're 7,
Yeah.
whereas confirmation usually happens when you're 12 or 13.
Oh, okay. Because that's when you're morally an adult and you have to affirm that you are in fact a Catholic. Right. Okay.
It's more a Protestant thing, whereas
okay.
first communion, it's very important. So it's at 7 because the Jesuits 7 before you're 7, you're not responsible. So
yeah, because everything is.
You don't have to go to confession before you're 7.
Before you're 7, yeah. The weird obsession with 7s in the Bible.
Yeah.
That fun fact. That's why contracts for actors doing TV shows can only be 7 years long, because in the Old Testament, that's how long you were allowed to have a contract. 7 years.
And then the Jubilee year. Yeah.
And then the Jubilee year, you cancel all debts every 7 years. After 7 years. And that is how contracts are written to this day in many fields. There's a maximum of 7 years because of Jubilee. Yep. Do we need a Jubilee now? Yeah, but we're not here to talk about economics. But 100%, yes. The only thing that's going to fix America is a Jubilee. But that's
the only thing that's going to fix the world is a Jubilee.
It's true. Like, the only thing that has a chance of fixing the world is a Jubilee. But
by the way, that's what Scorpia is doing in Alex Rider in the 3rd season.
They're trying to do a Jubilee and cancel.
They're trying to force the major, spoiler alert, everybody, but it happens pretty much in the early part. No, all of the governments to cancel all third world debt.
And they're the villains.
Yeah, and they're the villains.
How are they the villains?
Well,
it's like when I was watching that god-awful second Kingsman movie where Julianne Moore's the villain because she wants all the world's governments to legalize drugs. I'm like, are you sure she's the villain?
Yeah, I know. This is interesting because I don't know what the twist is. I mean, I'm only in about the 3rd episode of season 3. And Alex has just found out that, of course, the British special agency that is black ops for MI6 killed his father.
Okay, well, we'll see how the show goes. Maybe the show comes out on the side of debt forgiveness. It fixed most of the world's problems. You do a little debt forgiveness. But anyway, that's not... It's fundamentally not what we're here to talk about. So, maybe it should be. But the thing I was going to say is, like, so how much of this was always the plan for the character Solotov, and how much of this is, we just really like working with Josh Stewart? That's what I want to know. That is the question I want answered. Okay. Because it doesn't happen till episode 3. I'm like, was Josh Stewart just was this always the plan with the character? Or like, did they just enjoy working with him? And it's like, no, you got to make this guy sympathetic because he's so charming and he's so likable. And he really is. That's the crazy part.
Yeah.
Oh, and the thing is, Josh Stewart has this unbelievably strange niche that he has found for himself. Because this thing happened, what's happening with Solotov already happened in season 2 of The Punisher. Did you watch season 2 of The Punisher?
No.
Okay, well, there's not a lot of reason to. It's not a great season of television, but like, Josh Stewart is there. And he's playing the villain. And it's the strangest thing you've ever seen, because Josh Stewart, first off, magic whenever he's on screen. He's fantastic, but you remember the reason people wanted there to be a Punisher TV show? Yeah. Is there's this scene in season 2 of Daredevil where they give the Punisher this unbelievably great fight scene. It's the fight of the season where he's in jail and the Kingpin has 6 guys in this tiny jail hallway sent to kill him. And he kills these 6 guys. And it's this unbelievably brutal, well-done fight scene. And they're like, oh yeah, I'll watch a Punisher TV show, is what everyone thought. And so what you're expecting out of the Punisher is a signature fight scene. Every season. And season 1, they didn't really have that kind of signature fight scene. Okay. And people are like, oh, why didn't they do that again? And so season 2, they do that again. But here's the crazy part. Josh Stewart gets the signature fight scene. Josh Stewart plays a guy who is working for effectively, some right-wing Christian billionaires. And the whole point is that he used to be a Nazi, like an Aryan Nation Nazi thug guy.
Uh-huh.
And he got recruited by these billionaires to be an extremist Christian and turned his life around, essentially becoming like, these guys
a
aren't
warrior
actually,
for Jesus.
Yes, essentially, yes.
Yes.
He, and the whole season is very preposterous. It's Corbin Burnson, and he wants his son to, because he's this Christian billionaire, like the guys basically they're the guys who run Hobby Lobby, and he wants his son to become president, but his son's gay, and he's trying to cover up the fact that his son's gay, and so he murders a lot of people. And Josh Stewart is playing the essentially Quaker, villain who's murdering people for him. And so at one point, I know it's a crazy season. So at one point,
to go watch this.
Oh no, you really do, right? And so this one episode, I don't remember why he needs to do it, but he needs to get something from his old Nazi gang who he ran out on to go and become a Quaker. And so the Nazi gang tries to kill him. And there's this unbelievably great, like it's the best fight scene in the entire season. And it's a fight scene between the villain and a bunch of like the villain's enemies. And it's like, you're watching like, have they forgotten have they been so charmed by having Josh Stewart on their show that they forgot how this is supposed to be framed? And the answer is, I think maybe yes. Because they don't even have the wherewithal to kill off Josh Stewart at the end of the season.
Oh, good Lord.
Because they like the character so much.
Oh,
and it kind of feels, so because I had that experience watching Punisher season 2, I'm like, is that what's happening here? Do they just like Josh Stewart so much that they can't like just make him the bad guy?
And then Criminal Minds kills him off.
Yeah, well, that's a conversation we're going to be having in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Goddamn opening with Josh Stewart's funeral, the first episode. I don't know what that they are, but I wouldn't be surprised if they are. But anyway, or they'll do a montage of all the stuff that's happened over the past year and a half. But anyway, what bothers me, right, when I'm watching this is like, I honestly, I'm worried that that's not what they're going to do because it's been such a good run. Him in this season, because seriously, how this season ends is he goes to the church not to kill anybody,
no,
but just because he needs Bob's help in destroying Atlas.
Yeah.
And he plants a bomb in the church, and he wears a bomb on himself, and he's like, if you shoot, because he knows Bob will shoot him if Bob has said he'll shoot him if he sees him, and he knows Bob will shoot him if he sees him, so he has to be like, look, if you shoot me, everybody's gonna die, because it's the only way I can get you to have a conversation with me. And then they go outside, and Isaac shoots Bob. Because Bob has to throw himself in front of Solotov to save the church and keep Solotov from blowing up. But Isaac shoots Bob, and Solotov, the last thing that happens in the last episode of the season, this is why I feel like there were supposed to be 2 more episodes to wrap up this plot in Solotov's story. But the last thing that happens in the last episode is Solotov having to do surgery on Bob to save his life.
Yeah, I know.
Like, how is this where the show ends?
Yes.
It's
so they're going
insane.
to become best friends in season 3 and hunt Atlas together.
Atlas. But yeah, like, it's such a cop-out after, like, saying that the CIA is evil in season 1 to have it just be, no, there's a Scorpia in the world.
Yeah.
It is such a cowardly thing for them to do, to just say, no, there's a Scorpia. And that's why, and that, honestly, saying there's a Scorpia in the world is why I now want you to watch the movie, so we can talk about, like, how much more cowardly the TV show is than the movie is. But that's a conversation we'll have after we watch season 3. But yeah, now, like, the weird part is, I'm now really excited about watching season 3. Because I need to see where this goes. It's such a strange thing. And it's like, yeah, did Solotov kill a bunch of his friends? Yeah, but, we didn't really get to know any of his friends except for Insomniac Killer from Criminal Minds. And that guy That's right. It was the Insomniac killer from Criminal Minds. I recognized him. And that guy, was such an idiot, he got himself killed. All of their friends just got murdered in Germany, and Bob Lee is like, Solotov is coming to kill him, and his response is, whatever, I'll be fine. Will you, though?
No!
Why do you think you will be fine? You have seen the wreckage that this man leaves in his wake as he murders everybody. You're like, no, I can just drive back to Dallas. It's in the middle of the night. Alone? Oh, now I've got a flat tire, mysteriously, and someone has been following me. I'm sure I'll be fine. What is happening? Dude, it's rare that a character is so stupid that you're like, actually, I'm fine with him getting killed. But he reached that point.
Oh, yeah, Oh
my God, did he reach that point? So yeah, is this a good season? No. But was Josh Stewart just magic to watch? I think he was. They go and they steal all of Josh Stewart's money, and he goes and he tries to get his money back, and that's where they have this duel where the two of them are fully armored with assault rifles, and he's just a guy with a gun and a broken arm trying to scramble to save his own life.
yes.
Oh, and then he dresses up as an ATF agent and murders a corrupt Mexican federale. Oh my God! It's
anyway,
fun.
we've been yes, I know. Talking about it is more enjoyable
Fun than
watching it.
Absolutely, but it's like, seriously, if you do a version of this season that is like just watch the Josh Stewart scenes, I think you've actually got a pretty good movie. Is the crazy part. Like, if you just only cut it down to 2 hours and like Shooter season 2, just Solotov, I really think it's a compelling story.
Well, it would be like you could fill it out. You could, yes, it would be interesting.
I think the thing I find interesting in this show reminds me of is that Josh Stewart really has this weird niche, right? And that's why I brought up The Punisher as well. Because I'm not saying he gets these parts just because of an ego situation, but I'm gonna tell you a funny story.
Okay.
So, you know who Christopher Judge is from Stargate?
Yes.
Teal'c from Stargate, right?
Yeah.
So, in the movie Dark Knight Rises, Teal'c, I call him Teal'c because, obviously, Christopher Judge was hired to be like the guy who stands next to Bane and is menacing, right?
Okay, yeah.
And you might say, wait a minute, Christopher Judge isn't in The Dark Knight Rising. He is. In the scene when Batman blows up the escape route, like clears out the tunnel so everyone can get away through the tunnel out of Gotham, he's the mercenary, the Bane mercenary who's there, who's going to shoot everybody before Batman shows up. You might be like, oh, it's weird. That's not the guy who was standing next to him. Here's the problem. Christopher Judge is like 6'5".
Okay.
Tom Hardy is 5'9", 5'10", maybe.
Okay.
So they hired this guy to be the goon who stands next to Bane. But the problem is, it doesn't matter how muscular Tom Hardy gets. If he's standing next to Christopher Judge, Bane is not going to look impressive.
Correct.
Now, they had already hired Josh Stewart to be the Russian mercenary who works for Bane, who gets Bane onto the plane at the start of the movie. Right? And it's a wonderful, it's his only major dialogue in the movie, and he's so, like, perfect way to start the movie, having Josh Stewart there being creepy. And then they're like, well, Josh Stewart's only like 5'7", 5'8". We could have him standing next to Tom Hardy, and Tom Hardy will still look more impressive. So it's like, that's how Christopher Judge went from having 3 months on the movie to having 2 weeks on the movie. And Josh Stewart went from having a week on the movie to having 3 months on the movie.
Oh, jeez.
And the weird part is, I think he has this weird niche because, like, you and I might say, oh, well, it's fine if, an actor has to fight a guy who's bigger than him because it makes him look better as a hero, right?
Yes.
But you have to counter that with the fact that male actors in Hollywood don't want to ever look like they're short. And so Josh Stewart has this weird niche where he is a believably tough guy, but he's like 5'7", 5'8".
Yeah.
And the thing is, Punisher, not a tall guy. And I honestly believe that's why the defining thing of why Josh Stewart was cast is, well, we need someone who can do the part, and we need someone who's not going to make the Punisher look small. Because otherwise, you have to like constantly have people getting on apple boxes. Like they made, I mean, we all know Marky Mark is 5'7". Everybody knows that. In the movie Spencer, right? They made a terrible Spencer movie with Marky Mark, right?
Okay.
And they cast Winston Duke to play Hawk. And you might say, Winston Duke from Black Panther, he's like 6'4". That's perfect casting for Hawk. Right. Except Marky Mark doesn't ever want to be shorter than anybody on screen. So in like every scene where they talk, it is shot using Lord of the Rings style camera angles and standing on boxes.
Oh my God.
To make it look like Marky Mark is a foot taller than he actually is. And half the time I'm like, is Winston Duke crouching in this scene so people won't think he's taller than Marky Mark? And so the thing about Josh Stewart is, you hire Josh Stewart, you get a guy who can play the part, who can be a believable tough guy and a believable villain, but he doesn't. He makes Ryan Phillippe look tall, and Ryan Phillippe isn't tall.
No.
You know, and I think that might be why he's getting like brought in for a bunch of these jobs.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's a possibility.
It's my theory, because I know.
Distinct possibility.
Well, it's just like, because Christopher Judge has talked about the fact that he was cast for a much bigger part and, you know, quote unquote, doesn't know why he didn't get to keep that part. We at least know that is why Josh Stewart is in so much of The Dark Knight Rises. Like, we know for a fact, and I'm like, I'm guessing that's not the only time that happened to Josh Stewart, because yeah, the Punisher's also short, and Ryan Phillippe is also not a super tall guy. And so it's like, oh, you've got the perfect actor who can be like this fantastic villain and this believable threat, but he's just not that tall of a guy.
Yeah.
And
interesting.
Yet, well, he can still deliver. I mean, I will always be blown away by that wonderful scene at the start of season 15, right? Where JJ has been shot.
Yes.
And Will rushes to the hospital, and Matt Gubler is there, and Matt Gubler is like 6'3", and he's towering over Will, but it's like, Will has no problem dominating the scene.
Nope.
Because it doesn't matter, because Matthew Gubler knows how to play like the fragility of Spencer Reed, and Josh Stewart knows how to play the confidence of, right? And it's like the guy who's going to show up and be going to be there for his wife that Will has to have. Like, it's such a good little scene in not a good episode at all.
Well, yes.
Spoiler alert.
But go back and listen to our discussion.
Yeah, you can listen to us talk twice about season 15. We did it twice because we hadn't finished watching the show yet when 15 aired. So we have dedicated episodes for every season 15 episodes. And then we came back and we watched season 15 again as in the context of we have just watched the rest of the show. Because, we hadn't finished watching the rest of the show on the podcast. You had seen it. I hadn't seen it all. Well, no, I rushed so I could see it all. But we hadn't run it all down on the show is what I'm saying before we got to watching season 15. But, that's just time getting away from us. That one's on us. But yes. So, Shooter season 2. Kind of a confusing mess. Kind of a good third of the show was very plodding. And that third was the third about seriously.
The FBI agent and Omar Epps.
Oh God, Omar Epps, his story. But the FBI agent, it's like, and they keep going back to the Lady Marine, and it's like literally gosh, I wonder who the person who betrayed their team was. Literally the only member of the team who's still alive. Yeah.
Did that ever, except for Bob Lee.
Except for Bob Lee? Yeah, like I wonder who possibly could have been the one who betrayed them. Yeah. The one who doesn't want to talk to them is the only member of the team who's still alive. Yeah, that's who it was. But yeah, the whole plot, and the weird part is, like, you've got this whole plot of listening to the conspiracy guy talking about Atlas and her investigating Atlas. And what really bothered me about it when I'm watching that part of the thing is, like, how do I put this? Why on earth, and if you can explain this to me, please do, because I don't understand it. Why did Beverly D'Angelo hire her? Right? Because all she does for the entire show is tell her not to do things and not to ask questions. Because everything she finds out from the reporter and Xander and the woman they get, because they get the Marine killed at the end, duh.
Yes.
Right? Is just stuff Beverly D'Angelo could have told her. She doesn't work for the FBI. She has no authority to be doing any of this. She's
she's still working for the FBI. You've missed that.
No,
she's still working for the FBI, but she's working for Beverly D'Angelo as well.
She has no mandate from the FBI to be doing any of this, is my
point. Oh, no, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's okay in this show. You know,
no, absolutely. But my point is, like, all she's going to be doing when she finds this out is presumably taking it to Beverly D'Angelo. So, you know, why on earth, right? Why on earth?
Why? And
is she finding out all of this stuff that Beverly D'Angelo could just tell her?
Yes, I know. And we'll see what happens. I don't season 3, know.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not the only one confused by that, right?
I do not know. It is the old story that who knows? I mean, they set up the character as being somebody on their own. Well, the only way that can work being
FBI agent,
being an FBI agent, the only way that can work is if she's still bucking the system. And when she's working for Beverly D'Angelo, she can't really buck the system.
No, because
they needed somebody to buck the system. But why the hell, when she did everything and she got the bad guys in the end of the first season, is she now filing papers?
I know, right? Oh, well, I guess like the government and that's the weird part. I guess Atlas
and David and you know what's his face, Dave. Her boss is also
David Marciano got like sent to Alaska or whatever.
Yeah, his career was why?
Why? Because they exposed a conspiracy to kill the Ukrainian president.
So what's the big issue here?
I think it's a pretty big coincidence that she's dating, that the guy she's dating happens to be Harry Hamlin's legislative aide.
Yes.
Like, that's an amazing coincidence, don't you think? Who's like, the weird part is, when I found out that she was a legislative aide, I'm like, wait, did she seduce this guy specifically to find out more about it? No, it's a complete coincidence.
It's a complete coincidence. And why is she in Germany anyway?
She got sent to bring Bob Lee back. Now, you might ask, why would they send her to bring Bob Lee back rather than anyone from the Army or Marines? Because they're paying her salary, whether she's in an episode or not. That's why she's so there.
Funny. She's so reminiscent of Emma in Millennium 3.
I know, in Millennium Season 3. Just running around, causing a fuss, and just like not really accomplishing anything and kind of frustrating us.
Yes.
Yeah, that was definitely irritating. But you're right. You're not the only one who was thinking about her in comparison to Emma Watts. Emma Hollis in season 3 of Millennium.
Jeez.
All right, so that was Shooter season 2. Join us back here next week for Shooter season 3, where hopefully, like, it's Shooter season 3, just Solotov now.
We'll find out. Stay tuned.
We'll find out.
Because we're not telling you have to watch this show.
Well, that is the issue. A lot of the time, we recommend that you watch the shows we're talking about. But here, right, we're 100% going to say, no, if you just want to hear us talk about it, that's fine. I will say, they had the strength of character not to do another terrible CGI bullet this season. Thank you for having the strength of character not to do another terrible CGI bullet. All right, so that's that. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if there's any profiling or Josh Stewart related media you wanted to check out, drop us a line at profilingcriminalminds@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. If you're listening to this on an Apple podcatcher, please be sure to rate and review or subscribe, because that's how people find out about the show. We'll see you back here for more Shooter next week. But until then, I'll say that's right. Au revoir.
And have a good week.